Bridge consistently has been the most popular card game of English-speaking countries. It is of English origin and developed from the game whist. Well, whist became bridge in 1896. Can't you just imagine our Victorian ladies sitting in their parlor, fanning themselves and playing a winning hand? Well, these are beautiful Victorian cards. I just love the faces on them. Well, this is my winning hand. It's a beautiful quilt in Victorian greens and roses. Ooh, I just love it. Now that our blocks are done, we're going to set them together with lattice. Now you can set it together with a lattice like this with a light purple, something that goes with the blocks. These were squared to 12.5 inches. Or you can use a lattice that's the same fabric as the background color, and then the blocks appear to float. Well, let's pass and finish this quilt. You've heard of strip poker. How about stripping the lattice? The lattice strips are 2.5 inches wide. You need to have 6 of them for the baby quilt. So take that torn edge on the fabric and just line it up on your grid. Put your 1/4 inch line on the grid, on the ruler. Just take that, straighten that off. Just get rid of that. And then you can use your lines on your ruler or your grid. But just check. Make sure they're identical. And cut all of your 2.5 inch by 45 inch strips. And then once you have them cut, we're going to cut these into block size pieces. Oh, I've already got some all stacked over here. Remember, we squared our blocks to 12.5 inches. So I'm just going to take the end of this lattice. For a baby quilt right now, I only need to have 2 of them. 2 of them cut block size. So just go ahead, square off that selvage. Let's see if I can turn my ruler and cut these at 12.5 inches. Ooh, perfect. Oh, great. And I'm just going to leave those strips whole for the next step. Now, take your blocks. How do you want to turn them? Do you want to have everything turned exactly the same? Or do you want to go ahead, kind of tip them different ways for some variety? Well, I was playing with mine and I thought, oh my goodness, that blue is so pretty. What if I just turned the blocks so that I had all of the blue in the center? Looks so pretty that way, but play with it. They can go any way you want, exactly the same, or tip them. And then once you have them laid out like this, we're going to put lattice in between the long rows. On this one, we're going to need to sew a lattice to here and a lattice to here, just on the bottom of them. So let me just stack these out of the way. They're going to come next. Stack these 2. They're ready for sewing. Stack these and just put them right next to my sewing machine so they're lined up like this. Gosh, this is the tricky time. It's so easy to just get them mixed up and you won't have them in the order you planned. Okay, take this piece, just flip it right sides together to your lattice on this one, and I think I'll just do it on this one as well. Now, I turned them this way so that whenever you put them on your sewing machine, then that seam is on the top. Remember, we squared them to 12.5 inches. Just take this end down here, match it up. We squared it to 12.5 inches, so whenever I go across these seams, just hold them down. They're not going to hit right up against that tip. Keep that flat. Now there's a little bit of bias right in there, but you just assembly line sew the lattice onto all of the bottoms of your blocks. Let me see if I can just step on the gas and put this one through. I really like my 1/4 inch seam on my 5-thread serger because I can just get it exactly like I want it. Oh, one right through here. Perfect. Let's take a look and see how these rows are going to look. Now you want to press the seam towards the lattice. Just lay it out like this. One here, one here. Oh, great. Now I'm going to sew this block to this one and this block to this one. Now once I have that done, I'm going to take my long ones. I have some long lattice strips cut here, and I want to sew one here, and then one to this side, and one to this side. One to this row right here, and one to this row right here. Well, these are the easy ones, but it's when I put the two rows together that it gets tricky. So let me just sew these together first. I want to show you how I did this before I pull out all of the pins. I cut all three lattice exactly the same size, and then I pinned it right sides together to the rows. Now when you sew on the serger, you need to keep your pins back out of the way because your knife will go right over that, oh my goodness, and break it. So pin it like this, pin it evenly down all sides. Now, remember I said this is the tricky part. I've got this row with lattice on two sides. This one needs to be sewn to it, but it's so hard to get those lines going straight across. So take your 6x6 and just line it up so that you can see the lattice going along right here. We want to match it over here. So back it off just a pencil width like that. Put a mark right there, then line it up along here. Back it off a pencil width. Ooh, I got to keep that straight. Mark there. Now, these two lines here are going to go right in to these two lattice here. So take this whole piece, flip it right sides together like this. And now let's see. Oh, those seams are pressed in towards the lattice. It's perfect. Now let's see if I can get this, because it's really something else if they're not all lined up. Line up that seam on that pin right there. Match up this seam with this line right there. And then evenly spaced pins up at the top, in the middle, and then down at the bottom. So just sew this row, and then all I need on this baby quilt is another lattice up at the top and the bottom. I have to add my borders, and I'm done. Lady Luck was with me today. Isn't this border just the crowning touch? Oh, I love it. Well, I want to show you how to keep your corners straight when you're trimming. That's the most important part. So go ahead and take your square up ruler. Once you get your borders on equally pinned and sewn, then just lay your ruler in the corner and see how that diagonal line goes right out there, and there's squaring lines going right out, and each time you add a border piece on, make sure you use this and then trim it off so you don't have those flared corners. Well, if you'd like to finish this on the serger, you can with a quick turn. Let me show you. Boy, I have a second quilt going, so this is pretty lucky for me too. Now, take your backing, and because I'm doing a quick turn, I like to use the same backing fabric as border fabric. And take that backing fabric and lay it right side up on your table loosely. Now, you can go ahead and use clamps or tape, and just tape down your backing. And once you have that tape down, pin your quilt top right sides together to it. Now, since I'm using my serger, remember how I showed you to put those pins, to put them so that the head is on the inside going out. And the next wonderful thing about a serger is that you can trim your backing to about 1 inch away, and then just with the knife on the serger, you can just line that up so that you just trim that equally. Oh, this is great. Now I'm just going to sew around my quilt top, but right in the middle of one side. I'll just take this off and show you. You leave an opening. Now I'm just going to start over a little bit further over, leave a small opening for a small quilt, and then continue around all 4 sides. Then I'll cut my batting the same size and show you how to quick turn it. The quilt is as pretty on the wrong side as it is on the right side. Now my batting is cut the same size as the quilt top, and so that it stays to the outside edges after I turn it, I just did a loose basting stitch all along the edge through the batting so it just stays out there forever. Now comes the best part, the birthing. Oh, the rolling. Just get somebody on the opposite corner. You can do it by yourself, but it's a lot easier if you have some help. You just roll one corner, Then the other corner, oh, how about an elbow, maybe a foot, something like that. Hold it down tight, but get it rolled towards that opening. Now, don't let it get away from you. Let's see if I can hold on to it tight and just pop it right through that hole. Well, it sure doesn't want to cooperate with me, does it? Just take charge. Make sure you get it out there. Well, look at this, just scrunching around here. Oop, I think that's about it. Oh my gosh, thought I was gonna lose it right at the last. But once you get it, pull through that opening. It's so much nicer if you have help. Then just go ahead and straighten it out. You know, Mackie says if you need to, get a yardstick and stick it in there so you can straighten it. But just push it out to all those corners. Now's a good time to get a stiletto, something for those corners to pull that out. Well, are we getting it? Almost. One more corner, and it's looking good. I used a 6-ounce weight bonded batting. It's a polyester batting in there. It has a little bit of thickness to it so that when we tie, then you see some dimension. Oh, I love it. All right. Now, there's a couple of different ways you could finish it. You could do some machine quilting through all layers. Now, if you want to do some machine quilting, you need to make sure you have some straight corners. So once again, take your square up, go ahead and lay it on there. See, if I lay that right on like this, gosh, this is amazing. I can see that the lines of the square up are just squared up with the corners of the quilt. And then once you have that, sometimes you have to kind of tweak it and push it and get it nice. But once you do that, so you can hold it in place, you might want to just go ahead, take some straight pins and put it like this through the lattice just to hold it secure. Gosh, it's always scary when you do straight pins. You might want to do some safety pins as well. Now, if you want to do safety pins, go ahead and use this pinning tool and just put your safety pins in on the lattice, making sure that those corners are square. Let me just show you one more. Oh, it's so much easier. So go ahead and get your lattice pin down. How about some tying? Oh, Mackie has some great tips on tying for you. You can tie with pearl cotton. You can tie with embroidery floss, whatever you'd like. But if you use embroidery floss, why don't you just take an empty spool of thread and then just wrap your floss on it because it pulls off so much easier. No tangles and mess. And how about tying with a curved needle? It works so much easier. Curved needle just digs in, curves around. Cut off a length of floss, oh, about 18 inches. That sounds good. And we're going to do some assembly line tying, a little bit different. Assembly line. So take your needle in your thumb like this. Just take a stitch, curve it around, and pull it towards the end. And when you get it towards the end, leave about a 3-inch piece. And then you can just wrap it over the top and through the middle twice and pull it tight. Then take it the opposite way, wrap it through the middle twice, and pull it tight. Okay, now we're going to leave this in one strand. Where do we want to go next? How about let's check, see some dimension. You might want to take your fingers, plan it. How about let's just go right up here. That looks like a good spot to tie. So without clipping your threads, take another stitch right here and pull it tight. Okay, let's make a little loop with our floss going down this way with the needle. Just go underneath that tight thread once. Whoops, I've twisted it around here. Let me get hold of that. And twice and pull it tight. Okay? Now take that same floss, push it up away from you. Take your needle. I guess I wouldn't make a very good surgeon. I've got to really practice this one. Okay, loop it through twice and pull it tight. Oh, that's a nice tight knot. Now just keep on going. Go to the next step, take a stitch and do that same tight thread. Do your looping, and then once you've gone throughout your block, then you can go back with your scissors, clip your threads so they're only about 1/2 inch long. Go throughout, clipping your threads Ooh, and it'll be wonderful and dimensional. Now, I need to show you how to do some stitch in the ditch, but let me set up my other machine. Do you ever buy a piece of fabric that you don't have a plan for? Or do you ever have a large piece of fabric left from your quilt? Well, I have the perfect project for you. The Perky pillow. Oh, it's great. All it is a large piece of fabric that's been hemmed, and then there's 2 square knots right in the front. Ooh, it's so easy. Let me show you how. I have a stitch on my machine called a cover hem. I took a 37-inch piece of fabric and just folded under those raw edges, and then all I want to do is just hem around the outside. Now on this cover hem, I'm using the 2 needles, and they're just going right down almost as if it's a twin needle. Take a look at that stitch. You can see the twin needle, the 2 stitches going along here, and then on the back side you see that overcast stitch finishing off those raw edges. Ooh, it's easy. Only takes you a couple of minutes, and you can turn a large piece of fabric into something really pretty. Now turn it over so that you're on the wrong side. Take a pillow form, or perhaps an old pillow that you don't want to use any longer. Maybe it doesn't go along with your decorating. Put it so that it's on the angle. The points are out here. Put the pillow in the center, and just take these 2 points right here, bring them up, and tie them into a square knot. Well, showed you how to do a square knot already, so you should be able to do that fine. Now the idea is to turn these so that they look quite attractive. That's the first square knot. Now take the second one. Let me slip it right under here. Oh, look at that, nice and puffy. And then tie the second one so that it's underneath. You know how you go good old Girl Scout knot, right over left, right, left over right. We'll do the first half underneath, then take these pieces right here, slip them underneath, oh, arrange that nice, and then just tie this into the last part of the square knot. Ooh, it's a great way for you to use a large piece of fabric and just put a nice embellishment to your quilt. The layering for machine quilting is just a little different. Take your backing and place that right side down on your table, and remember you can clamp it or tape it. And next comes your batting, and it should be thin so that you can go through all thicknesses. Now this is a 100% cotton. I really like to use 100% cotton in my machine quilting, but you could use wool or you could use polyester as well. And then your quilt goes right side up, and you smooth all layers. Now I showed you how to do some safety pinning. You're going to do the same thing throughout. Just plan where you want to do your stitching and make sure that you keep your pins out of the way, because if you get into your pins, boy, you can't go forward. Now it's easy to do long vertical rows with this quilt. Do those first. Do the long vertical rows and then go across the opposite way and get all of this lattice work done first. Now the cards are a little bit trickier. I want to show you how to do that. And I'm going to roll up and work on this one, so let's work on it. Now, you don't want to stitch in the ditch the whole way around the outside edge, and keep on turning your quilt with each little turn. So plan it. What you want to do is a diagonal row like that and stop. Then come up here, do this stitching, raise your thread, and do this stitching. I'm going to do all one direction first, and then do the opposite direction so you can manage your quilt. Let's just roll this up. Roll it from the corner on the diagonal up to where we're going to work. On a larger quilt, boy, you're going to have something really to work with here. But then use these clips to just hold that roll in place. Oh, there's 2 sizes. Actually, I need all little ones. This is a small quilt in comparison. Think about a king-size quilt trying to fit that into your machine. Really hard. So you take this end and just slip it right in there so that your roll is in the center. Now, I put on my walking foot already. And you want to put on a walking foot and a long stitch length. How about, 3.1, 3.7 will work just fine. And drop your walking foot so that you're right on that end. Now I like to just go ahead and back stitch right on there, and then you hold your hands flat like this as you go along. You could use invisible thread in the top, you could use matching thread, or just use a white thread. I put a light background on the back of this so that whenever I stitch, then my bobbin threads don't pop up. Match your bobbin threads to your backing. Okay, right here I ended. Now I'm going to just pull it back up to this spot right here, and once again, just drop it. Use your needle in feature. I didn't have that in on the last time, but make your needle just go right in and out of that ditch. Now I just want to work on a color at a time, so I'm going to end that red, raise my presser foot, take that needle out of the fabric, and then slide it over to the blue. And just keep on going. Just roll from the center out so that you get all of your work done. Once you've gone straight across one way, then you just take out your clamps, you re-roll it, and go in the opposite diagonal direction till you get that whole top quilted. All those cards, all those winning aces. The binding comes from 3-inch wide strips that are pieced together lengthwise, then they're pressed in half so that they're ready. See right here, fold, wrong side in. Now on the end, so that you have a nice neat tuck, take that and fold it on the diagonal and tuck that right in there. That's where we're going to tuck the last bit of strip in. Now start sewing your binding right in the middle of one side. And use your walking foot. I like to use that so it goes over the fabric. And when you get to the corner, stop about 1/4 inch from the end. Leave your needle in. Just raise it, turn it to the second side, and back off. Oh, we want to have nice crisp corners here. So take this binding, fold it straight up on the diagonal, and then take it and fold it right back down so that you have a nice straight edge across there. And then just start sewing. And that's exactly like you want on all 4 corners. Oh, I'm losing my quilt. Hold on to it here. Once you've gone the whole way around, then just go ahead, go back and trim off that corner. Let me see if I can just grab my scissors here. Trim that up around there. You might want to use your rotary cutter. That would be fine. And clip right up to the edge. Let's see. Whoa! Okay, now, this is the best part about this, because once you've trimmed it away and then you start folding that back, you've got a nice crisp corner there. From this side, just turn it so that your edge of your binding covers your stitching. You can see that really well on the back side now. Take some long pins, straight pins, and here at the corner, tuck this in, and then take the second side and fold it back down over. So you have a diagonal fold on the back side, just as you did on the front. Now, you might want to go ahead and slip stitch this binding in place, or you could turn it over from the right side and then just do a stitch in the ditch right in that seam to hold down that edge. I'm going to go back and get my quilt done.
Elle?
I'm in the attic, Mackie.
Hi.
Hi, look at this.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
I know, I love it.
Easy, isn't it?
It was so
Told
much
you it was.
fun.
Now, is the legend on the back?
Not yet.
You better get that on there,
I
because you know what I told you. A quilt ain't a quilt till the legend's on the back, till the PPPD's in place. That's pattern, person, place, and date. Put it on. Don't hesitate with something no one can erase. You can write it, you can type it, you can Birdie beat or stamp. You can even French knot it till your hands get a cramp. Just remember what Mackie said. Don't you put that on your bed till the legend's on the back.
Do you have one for me?
I just happen to have.
Oh, like magic.
You
And
bet.
it's all filled out. Oh,
Yes.
thanks.
Do
I'll
it.
see you later.
Bye-bye.
I don't have any excuses now. I have to get my label on the back. So why don't you be a queen of hearts? Play with your fabric and make your own beautiful winning hand quilt.